Hello, this is Deborah Yah with Black Education TV, and I'm going to be coming to you with a segment in which I will be reading from my book, Woman, Thou Art Bound. This particular section I'm going to be talking about, and here's the title, Silly Women Laden with Sins Who Don't Want to Be Empowered. So first I'm going to read that section of the book, and then I will give additional commentary after. Okay, the segment starts as follows. There is a rise in silly women laden with sin, being led captive by brute beast men and their egos. Are you supporting your own oppression in order to keep a man? Some women do not want to be empowered, but want to stay in silent submission to brutish men who are set on destruction. It's safe to say that not all women in the Bible were not exactly alike. That would be like saying that we were all meant to be like Stepford wives. Unfortunately, there's a large group of the male population that paint all women with the same brush. For example, it is the belief that women don't have brains and cannot think for themselves. If they do appear to have brains or the ability to think for themselves, they are either branded as Jezebel, feminist, or possessed with demons. There's a worldwide epidemic of this type of thinking. Some even believe that 90% of women are evil, but never consider the deeds of the men that rule this planet. I'm going to focus specifically on black women in America, because the media has launched a full-blown campaign over the past few decades to tarnish the image of black people, period. It is hard to reconcile in the minds of people that all blacks don't fit into the same mold. Let's look at the black woman, for instance. The images of the loud, weave-wearing, gum-chewing, foul-mouthed ghetto baby mama full of drama, big butt, pimple-faced, welfare queen, promiscuous, whorish black woman has been flaunted and celebrated by those who wish to exploit and tarnish this group for the purposes of selling the negative image to the public. On the quest to be redeemed in the sight of their men, some black women will take the fall just to get a little attention. Notice I didn't say love, because men who take on such women usually play on their emotions with no real intentions of loving them. There's an old saying that a piece of man is better than no man at all. If you've gotten to the point of saying that, then it's safe to say that you've been broken down to the lowest degree. I've literally heard women make excuses for the way they are treated by brutish men. Some will say it was my fault, or he was having a bad day, or maybe if I didn't do this, that, or the other, he wouldn't get so angry all of the time. Or if I was better in bed, he wouldn't have to look elsewhere. In other words, she sees no wrong in how she's being treated because it's all her fault to begin with. I've even seen instances where some women will view other women who don't have that oppressed nature and literally see them in the same light as some men. They will say things like, oh, she only acts that way because she has the Jezebel spirit. Oh, she's too aggressive. She obviously wears the pants in her house, or her husband must be a pushover. For some, seeing other women displaying strength is intimidating and makes them feel inadequate, and therefore they must come up with a diluted explanation to convince themselves that this show of strength is wrong. Any attempts to empower this type of woman by a woman of strength can result in backlash. Now, this is not the case with all, but I've witnessed for myself the destructive nature of a woman who is comfortable with being disenfranchised and thwarted. She usually sees her abuser as a safe lover because he won't go anywhere as long as she allows him to walk all over her without any challenging of his bad behavior. Women who have taken on this silly woman persona can be real enemies to true godly women. This kind of woman can be dangerous because she has the ability to give birth just like any other woman. When you have women like this raising children, they become contributors to more silly women when they raise their daughters to be just like them. The respect for elders or those who teach righteous ways become more of an insult rather than accepted reproof. That is the attitude that some women have taken on. Once it gets to that point, it is best to walk away and pray and let them decide on their own that they want to be free. You see, a silly woman laden with sin will become your enemy because her brute beast man has convinced her that you are the enemy because of your freedom from this type of bondage. She will see your freedom as a threat to her sanity because she has no plans of escaping. If you know someone like this, just pray and let it go. Now, like I said, this is part of the Tough Love series. And that is one of those subjects that no daughter of Zion likes to look at. The silly woman laden with sin. That is like the ouch in the Bible that no one wants to be referred to as. Same with the Jezebel spirit, in which I'll get more into that later. And so, as it relates, going back to the silly woman laden with sin, there are so many examples that we see among us daily to show a true representation of that. And notice there is always a connection to brutish men who creep into the houses of silly women. I can't just look at one particular demographic of woman because we see that so much. And it's not just among our own people, but other people as well, other nations as well, Gentiles. But my focus here is going to be on the so-called African American woman, because the system, the way in which it is set up, has allowed it, has made it to where a black woman, if she, for instance, is getting benefits from the government, she may have Section 8 housing or something of the sort. If she's getting any type of help, she becomes an easy target for these type of men, because we know that our men have been disenfranchised as well by this system. And so instead of trying to work their way through this system, they say, well, I'm going to use the system too by using a daughter of Zion that is connected to the system. We've seen it played out so many times where someone is getting some type of government benefits or living in a Section 8 situation, and in which we are not looking down on anyone who has Section 8 or does get government benefits, because we do understand that some of our people are having a difficult time and they do need this, because we as a people collectively have not seen the importance of trying to set up our own welfare systems. And so this leaves our daughters or our sisters in a position where they must depend on the system, you see. And so with that, the same with our brothers, because our brothers are so disenfranchised and the system is against us, the whole system is stacked against us. The chips are stacked against us. What we do is we victimize each other from that point. So you'll have brothers who will go into these situations with a daughter of Zion, and instead of trying to improve himself, we have all heard the stories of the big grown man who plays video games all day, watches television all day, hangs with the fellas all day, makes no attempts to get out into the world and establish his own way or create his own set of terms of living. Cutting grass, blowing leaves, shoveling snow, cutting hair, whatever it is you must do, fixing cars. I mean, there are so many different opportunities, but some of our brothers don't even get to the point of trying to explore those opportunities and find what the scripture refers to as a silly woman laden with sin who will take him on. And this man will treat this woman, a story that we've heard, a scenario we've heard so many times, treat her like trash. And it's not that she is supporting him, you see, because she's getting government benefits or she's living in a Section 8 house. It's that he has decided to latch on to the support that she is getting from elsewhere. Now, instead of these two putting their heads together and saying, let's do something to create a better life for ourselves. Instead of these two doing that, they both will be a thorn in each other's side, because she's providing what she considers to be a safe haven to have a man and allowing him to treat her in an ungodly way just to have him. And he is performing in the function of an infidel, because the scripture says if a man doesn't take care of his children, that he is worse than an infidel. Worse, you see. And so it's actually a supporting of bad behavior, unscriptural or unbiblical behavior, when our daughters of Zion allow brutish men to come into their space and make them a silly woman laden with sin, to where it was more important for you to have that man than to have a solid relationship with the Most High Yah. Now, I did say that this one was going to be one of those that's going to be tough. I mean, that's what this is. It's a tough love series. I, Sister Deborah Yah, am not sitting in judgment of anyone. This is a general message to the daughters of Zion. It is for you to look at yourself and your situation and examine yourself and make the necessary changes so that you do not fit the description of the silly woman laden with sin. You see, I'm trying to present the message in a loving way as best as I can, but tough love means just that. Tough love sometimes is going to hurt, is going to sting, oh daughters of Zion. So one thing I would like to say, because I've had a number of young people reach out, in which some have been young men and some young women. Of course, this one is to the young women. If you are a teenager and you're asking, okay, how can I do this, that, or the other in my walk? You see, you're about to go into your 20s or what have you. So you're probably at that age to where you may or may not be seeking a relationship. You see, there are some that want to marry at a later age, in which that is okay. But there are some, in which is nothing wrong with this either. There are some that are young who wouldn't mind entering into marriage at a young age. I was young when I got married, so there's nothing wrong with that. But what I want to say to our sisters, whether you're a teenager about to go into your 20s, whether you're in your 20s or even your 30s, before you enter into any relationship or any type of marriage situation, you better pray. Ask the Most High to show you the things that you cannot see as it relates to whatever the man who you are being courted by or you're considering. Ask the Most High to show you what you cannot see. And allow yourself to be led of the Ruach HaKodesh. Don't be led of your flesh. Because if you are led of your flesh, it don't take much for that man to say to you before you are just melting like butter. Don't allow a man to peer into your eyes and say, oh, you have some beautiful eyes. And then before you know it, you're a puddle of butter on the floor. Don't do that. Don't allow this man to grab your hand. Just say you decide to go to the store with him. I knew of a situation where a brother, he went to the store with a sister. She was a single sister, and she already had a couple of children. But he went to the grocery store with her, and all they were doing was walking around shopping, and he was talking. And her expression to me about that encounter was this. When she spoke with me about it, in which he had made no type of commitment or no type of even insinuation that he was trying to have a relationship to her. Now, this was a particular brother who really was trying to share the word with her. Okay, but she allowed herself to get too attached. She wanted to help out with one of the feast days, and she wanted to purchase some of the things. And so the brother went to the grocery store with her, in which I would say personally, I don't think that's a good idea. If you're single and he's single, y'all shouldn't go to the store together if there's no intention. Brothers, I'm speaking to you now. If there's no intention of marrying this sister, Because I'm going to tell you how a woman thinks. If you get in the car with her and you ride somewhere with her and y'all walking around the grocery store and y'all talking, and especially if she already has children and they're walking too, that woman is framing something in her mind that this is what a husband and wife does. They shop together. You see, just wanted to give you that information because women are seeking love. And so when you put her in a position, or she puts herself in a position to where she is with a man and they're walking and they're talking and she's giggling and all of this, she is, in some cases, not all women are like this, but some women, they take that very personal. Wow, we rode to the store together. We're walking around shopping like a family. And so that is what started to happen as I spoke with this sister. But that is what she expressed to me, that she thinks she likes him because it was like having a family. This was her expression, and this was some years ago, you see. And so she allowed her heart to get really involved from that point because she had painted this picture in her own mind. And so the end result of all that, there's a whole lot more before that and in between that. But I'm going to take you to the end. Because she allowed herself to go in with that frame of mind of getting attached to a man who had not made any type of commitment of a relationship, didn't even speak of it, she ended up being hurt. She was a part of his assembly. It was a Hebrew Israelite assembly. And when the brother finally met the woman that he wanted to marry and eventually did marry, it was kind of ugly at first because the sister found herself looking at the sister that he really was interested in, and she started to gather bitterness toward this sister, you see. And it got to the point where when she would see the brother conversing with that sister who he eventually married, she would go and cry. She went and cried. And of course, you cannot allow yourself to get emotionally attached to someone in that way if they have not made a commitment. So again, for the young sisters, do not allow yourself to get emotionally attached to someone without knowing or understanding what the will of the Father is. The scripture says, whom Yah have joined together, let no man put asunder. Not whom I have joined, or whom this person has joined. Don't make your own decisions based on your own emotions and flesh because you may make the wrong decision. Don't pour your heart into something that you are not fully aware of as being the will of the Most High Yah. If something is not the will of the Father, it will not last. It will not work. And you will find yourself in that position of hurt time and time again because you were thinking with something other than your brain. You see, again, Daughters of Zion, the Tough Love series is meant to cause you to think and to examine yourself. I was young once, and as I get older, I began to see the world for what it is. The world is a very tricky place at this point because, especially for us as the children of Israel, we are in our captive land, and many of our customs were abandoned a long time ago. The order that we had established thousands of years ago is not here. It has disappeared. Back then, there were people who oversaw the forming of relationships, you see. But right now, our young people, our men and our women, are jumping into relationships so fast without any type of direction, without any type of counsel, nothing at all. And bad decisions are being made. Children are being born into these bad situations. We don't understand how we hurt ourselves and our children when we allow ourselves to engage in toxic relationships because our emotions were all tied in this. We decided that this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. I didn't pray. I didn't seek nobody. I just said, look, this man is asking me for my hand. I'm not going to even consider what type of man this is. I'm just going to go ahead and marry because I'm not getting any younger. Those are the kind of decisions you simply cannot afford to make in this day and time. You've got to make sure that you pray before you enter into a marriage covenant, or before you commit yourself to a relationship in a way that is permanent, because you will find yourself being labeled as a silly woman laden with sin if you are not careful. So to the daughters of Zion, I hope and I pray that this particular message can help you and that you don't feel hurt by it, but to cause you to think, especially for those of you who have not committed to a relationship. Think, pray, seek the Most High Yah, and don't allow yourself to fall into the trap and the snare of making such a permanent life decision that you will regret later on. And with that, I will say shalom.